Hi, everybody. So this week, we are going to do something a little bit different. We've decided to film a little Q&A.
Yeah.
And we asked you all for your questions. We got a ton of questions. We're not going to answer everything today. And some of them had such huge answers that we're definitely going to make videos
out of that.
So we're going to start with questions that are for both of us, and then I will answer the voice questions by myself.
Point me first.
So you don't have to be just sitting here looking cute.
I appreciate that.
So the first question about us is, how did we meet?
Oh, that's a good one. So I have multiple degrees in film production.
I wonder.
Let's make sure my mic isn't peaking, shall we?
That's film degrees for you.
That's film degrees.
See, I went to a university.
All right, back to the story.
Back to the story. So for one of my degrees, I had to make a final film. And for that, I was working on like trans portraiture because I was also like only a couple years out at the time.
I can't believe that.
I know, it's wild, right? my thing was like, if I'm going back for another degree, I'm going to be out while I'm doing it. I'm not going to be closeted.
Cute.
And I wanted to like profile an artist, and I found you.
Through a queer barber.
Through a queer barber.
You don't trust anybody, that's your problem.
I trust my barber.
Who was also doing an arts degree at the time that I knew, that highly recommended you. And I think it was the next week you invited me to like midnight recording sessions, which ended up being like a significant chunk of the film.
Yeah.
And multiple years later, we're friends, and now we do this.
When was that, 2018 that we met?
Yeah, I think so, because I finished the film before COVID.
Before the dark times.
We did 2 music videos for my 4th album, which I will link. If you wanna
No,
watch
those
them.
are
They're
sick.
here
I
on my
love those.
channel.
Yeah.
And then we made like 300 TikToks.
Oh my God. It's always wild when people are like, how long have you been doing those? And I was like, well,
A long time.
Years and years and years and years.
And then I officiated your wedding.
Yep, you officiated my wedding. That was very kind of you.
You know, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just been like a beautiful friendship, but also a collaborative relationship. And
Yeah.
it's the only relationship I have like this. Like, I don't do this kind
Yeah,
of with anybody else.
Me too. I like the rest of my relationships are not as enmeshed creatively and everything else, but this is a great one.
It's great. I love you.
I love you too.
So the next question is, how did y'all choose your names? Was there any specific requirements they had to fit, or was it more of vibes only?
I literally had another trans person ask me this yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you pick T?
I picked it because they were asking me because they were like, I picked it to satisfy my family, and I was like, I did not do that, but I did want to keep the same initials, which at least did benefit me because it meant that a bunch of my like account numbers didn't change. So that ended up being actually quite beneficial.
Paperwork wise.
Honestly, if I did it now, I'd probably pick something weirder because
Really?
what is the point in fitting in necessarily?
Sure.
She says idealistically. I picked it because my family comes from like Wales and England, and
So you picked like a culturally related name
yeah,
that
I
had the
picked
same initial.
Yeah, exactly. And then for my middle name, I just stole it from a trans celebrity. So
Speculate.
And my name was actually the one I was given at birth.
My parents did it.
Renee was my uncle's name, fun fact. Only with 1 E. And my parents said that whether I was a boy or a girl, they were gonna name me Renee. So very fitting for a non-binary person.
That works.
It's a
It
fun
makes
fact.
sense either way. It's a perfect like non-gender specific name.
I love it. I mean, I know the spelling is kind of either or. I have experimented with spelling it RENE-E,
Yeah.
which is kind of a cute non-binary thing we do, or a neutral thing we do in French sometimes, is like the dash or the dot.
Français, player.
When I go to Mexico, nobody spells it with the second E, which I love. It's so affirming.
Yeah.
So it's cute. And my middle name is Rose, which I don't really vibe with that much, but it was my grandmother's name. And
How often do you use middle
it.
names? Unless you're like unless you love your middle name and you like really want to use it.
I know, it never comes up, but I do love that R.R. Yaxon is like J.R.R. Tolkien, or like, it's got a very literary feel to it.
You're reclaiming the double initial before
right.
last name.
Yeah. The next question has to do with video production.
Hey.
This one says, well, we'll start with an easy one.
Yeah,
What
go for
tools
it.
do you use for video production and why?
we'll do the speed round version of this
Which
because
time do you
also
have?
it's the end of a recording day and
Yeah,
I
we're
don't want
tired.
to outrun the memory card. So in terms of like cameras and stuff, we use a GH5S, which is a little bit older now, but a nice camera if you find one of them for cheap. It is good, obviously, for making this kind of stuff. One of the best pieces of tech we have is we got a teleprompter, the Elgato prompter. That prompter is so worth it.
Yeah, it has saved our bacon.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it just helps because otherwise like you're trying to memorize the lines that you've written over a course of time and like it's stressful doing the whole day. Like teleprompters are so helpful
I
for
love
that.
the prompter.
The other piece of gear that I really love that we use on a regular basis is I have a little Sound Devices MixPre 6, which is an audio recorder, which has really good limiters. So if like you shout, for instance, it saves you from that being like completely
Which I do a
unusable.
lot in videos,
Yes.
weirdly.
You do a lot of vocal exercises, which really test those limiters at times. And then our lapel mics are Sennheiser lapel mics. Those are also really great.
And your lights also.
Yeah, and then the lights are various aperture lights. They're a little bit more expensive than like the newer basic Amazon stuff that you get, but they have really great color. They last forever. They're super lightweight.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and then I edit with Premiere and Adobe sucks, but it's a really great piece of software because you can do the entire thing in one piece of software.
And then we do all of our writing, like we kind of co-write in a way, like I write all the videos in Notion, and then T will
I
come
do
in
an editing pass and help
Yeah.
you with that.
and then we make a shoot plan, and
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of production actually that goes into these.
It is.
to
It
make
is
it
not.
look so easy.
Yeah, it's not a small amount of production. When we moved to YouTube, I was like, if we're doing YouTube, I want us to like do YouTube right.
And it's been like more creatively satifying for you, I
oh
think.
my God, yes.
Challenging, but fulfilling.
yeah. No, this has been very creatively satisfying for me.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Okay, next is one thing I have always loved about your videos is the homey, comfortable, talking to a friend vibe. What are the production choices you make that give your videos their feel and style? You're a great team.
Hey.
Yeah. Production choices. I think the fact that this is my home is a big part of it.
Yeah, you have a good sense of design and you have like these, like the color of all of the walls being like this nice, warm, like golden hour kind of orange, I think helps a lot. Like having the plants, like you have a lot of like soft surfaces and everything. Rugs, soft surfaces, bookshelves with like irregular, like sized books and things. It all helps with the audio. It breaks up the reflections.
Yeah. And by the way, this paint color is Saffron Strands by Bear. But yeah, I have a lot of books. There's a lot of like macrame, so a lot of like soft textures on the walls.
A lot of wood.
A lot of wood, mix match furniture. All my things are basically salvaged or secondhand. Like this couch was secondhand. My coffee table I found in the garbage. That chair that I sit on when we're in front of the macrame wall was in the garbage.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. My table was secondhand. Like literally all my things are sort of collected and found, and that's what gives them like my personality vibe. Because also I've lived in this apartment for 12 years.
Yeah.
So I've really had a chance to like make it.
Yeah,
my
like
space.
I think the classic look of the videos, which is like the book nook,
yeah.
which is just to our side over here, like you had that like built, which I think was a great choice, both just for the look of your, but also it makes my life easier.
Yeah, well, and it's funny. Some people like start their YouTube channel and then think, oh, we should build a background, but I just like this is just how my apartment looks.
Yeah.
But I really wanted this apartment to be my home. Since I've lived in here for so long, it like didn't make sense to not paint and make built-ins. Like I know it's a rental, but
Nesting,
you gotta
queer
love your
nesting
space.
energy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I diffuse our lights a lot, as much as I can, with us having to like move them around because I insist on using different backgrounds for all the videos. You know, and really trying to soften your light, like by either having soft boxes or you can even just get like cheap reflectors, take the reflective stuff off it. It gives you some diffusion, put that in front of your light. It really helps it feel less stark.
Yeah. And the other thing is that I have done TikToks for now years. Like it started in 2021. And so I just have a lot of practice, like just talking to a friend, because I had to film all my TikToks on my phone. Also, all my courses are filmed like me talking to my students. I just have a lot of experience like in this talking to a friend vibe.
You get used to just talking. And you get used to, thank you.
We also have to deal with this
We also
all
have
the
to deal with like wild traffic outside all the time. if you hear it in the videos, know that we did like 3 takes and all of them had that. And I was just like, okay, we gotta move on.
We gotta move on.
But yeah, like anything that's like streaming can be really great, or like if you are into nerd stuff and you want to go to conventions and do like presentations, all of that kind of stuff helps get you more fluid at just like filling time.
Yeah, and speaking off the cuff and not like stumbling over your words. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we've worked very hard to get here, but
I think so.
I'm
I like
happy.
to think we do nice things.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that might be it for questions. Yeah, the rest are voice questions.
Aha, I escaped.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so the next crop of questions are all about the voice. We got a lot of questions. I'm gonna do my best to answer them succinctly. This first one says, hi, wondering if you have any tips for reducing twang in transfemme voice, especially with high vowels like E. So when we're talking about twang, we're usually referring to like a contraction of the areopaglottic sphincter. So that's like, if you think about a nerd voice, this sound. Did I do that? I can't do an auctioneer. A country singer, that's very twangy, like, well, I left my baby. So all of that is twang. And so sometimes when people are raising the larynx, they just contract everything in the back there. So when we're like trying to raise the larynx to create brightness, instead of doing it like this, where things are like feeling kind of loose, except for the larynx, which is up, it ends up being like this, where everything is a little bit tight. And this just happens because someone is trying really hard to do the thing. They're thinking about raising the larynx, but everything contracts at the same time. So what I typically recommend to counter that is maybe 2 things. I would first say, how would you approach the exercise if it were easy, as I always do? What if it were easy? That would maybe just allow you to do the same lifting exercise with a little less effort. So instead of everything closing, it's just, okay, I'm trying to do it without squeezing everything. And then the second thing I tried to say, and I've talked about this in previous videos, or maybe in future videos, I'm not really sure, is to raise the larynx and then practice just breathing so that you can get a sense of that openness increasing at the back of the throat. So we would do whatever exercise you want to raise the larynx. There's lots of different ones. You could do big dog, little dog, and actually trying to breathe with a nice open airway while maintaining that larynx up. That can help to create that bright resonance. And you can even raise the pitch a little bit. That might help as well. And then think about just relaxing the back of the throat and having a nice open airway. So that's what I would do. I would be like a series of steps to try and relax that areopaglottic contraction. I hope that helps. This next question, what is your favorite milestone or moment in vocal training for students and for yourselves? So actually, T, this could have been for you as well. Did you have a milestone in voice training that was significant to you?
Oh God. I don't know. My voice, I guess it is the funny thing to say that like we have been working together for so long, but I am a great example of your emotional state can kind of get in the way of your training, because I'm just constantly so burnt out and it takes a certain emotional weight for me to do it. I do recognize my voice is quite different now.
That I have no memory of.
Yeah, and you have no memory of that because that was even before we met. So like, I guess the point at which I realized it had shifted enough that I don't know what the OG baseline was.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I think that is a beautiful milestone when people look back and suddenly realize the progress they've made. Because a lot of times when you're working with people, they don't see the progress because they're like too close to themselves, you know what I mean? And so when you get them to hear a recording from like a year ago, 2 years ago, and they really notice the difference and they do notice that they've made progress, that is really, really special. So the next question is, how can I feminize my voice, but make it stay how it is without forcing it every time? Great question. It's a complex one. The choice of the word forcing implies that it's a lot of effort to create the voice that you want. But if we just remove that word from the question, how can I do it without, let's say, putting it on every single time so that's more in the background? It just takes practice. It's one of those things that you kind of have to do it over and over again for a long time until it becomes a habit.
Again?
Again?
Again? Again.
If you think about how often you used your voice before, like that's the kind of deep habit you're trying to overwrite. So just keep it up, and over time it will feel more natural and more background. Now, just to add on forcing, if you are like using a lot of activation energy to create a voice that you like, I would see if you can get similar results with a little less activation energy. That just might be like practicing some of the relaxation techniques like we just talked about, like what if it were easy, and okay, I'm gonna consciously relax my body and reduce my breathing a little bit so I'm not taking in a huge amount of air. Like just trying to do everything you can to get the same results with a little less activation energy. That might just make you feel like you're forcing less. Okay, next question. I watched your video on SOVT with the straw and followed along with you and T. I feel like my resonance improved a lot, which is amazing. Is it normal for it to work for me so well and so quickly? Is it normal? I love this question because it's like something really worked well for me. Is that normal? Like it's so stressful when things go well, because with voice training, people are really always expecting the worst. Like it's gonna take so long.
I've been here for so long, alone.
Sometimes it's just easy, and just embrace it if it is. With the SOVT exercise in particular, I find the results of those are quite immediate. Like when I do them to warm up, and for me it's like night and day. I really notice the difference right away with how much more efficient I speak when I do straw phonation. And I will also say that like, if there is an exercise that just helps you get into your target voice instantly, you don't have to go through the voice training process of like learning all the different characteristics and trying to master them. Like if the meow exercise, which we made a TikTok video about, if that works and just gives you the voice you want, that can be all your training is. It can be simple. And if it's not, if it does take a lot of work and a lot of different things, that's also fine. Everybody's training looks very different. How do I not feel embarrassed doing exercises? I'm afraid that others may hear me and judge me for talking to myself. So I used to get this question a lot when I was a singing teacher, because we would be in music school and people would be in the practice rooms, like embarrassed to practice because people would hear them trying. But you cannot be afraid to let others see you trying, because it is the only way to improve. And they're probably not judging you. And even if they are, who cares? Let them judge you. This is how we move forward. We have to try in order to get better. If you do need some support for dealing with that feeling of embarrassment when practicing, there are things you can do to mitigate what others will hear. I hate to tell trans people to literally get into the closet, but one of the ways to practice without being heard is just to go into a place with a lot of clothes around you, or literally practice into a pillow. They won't be able to hear you practicing with something in front of your face.
Yeah, and the closet is, you are also just doing what podcasters have done before you.
For years!
If you see any podcast, like video podcasts are so common now, but before that was the case, everyone used to just go into their closet, put a like a blanket or something back over them in the door frame, and it gives you that radio sound because all of the reflections, everything are being eaten up by the soft fabrics in front of you. Yeah. So that is a genuinely like good idea. If you want even more, like put a towel under your door and be in the closet, like that is going to help. Or go
practice in your car, or go practice out in a park. Like there are lots of ways to get away from other people if that's a consideration, but also let them hear you. Take up space, you deserve it.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I mean, this is also something I struggle with, I will admit.
I don't.
I know, but it is also one of those things of like, to be cringe is to be free.
Like, to be cringe is to be free. How important is pitch targeting with your feminine voice? I'm quite confident I can maintain somewhat high enough pitch, but I keep messing it up. There's a little bit more to this question, but basically, how important is pitch in voice feminization? I will say it is a consideration, but it is not the only thing. You can get a lot of juice out of just changing the resonance of your voice. So if I don't change my pitch, I'm gonna speak in a robot voice to make this even more impactful. If I don't change the pitch at all, and I just brighten the resonance, the pitch has stayed exactly the same. It sounds a lot more feminine, even though I haven't changed the pitch. And now it sounds a lot more masculine, even though I haven't changed the pitch. So your pitch can stay the same, and you can still modify the perceived gender of your voice. Adding a little bit of a pitch raise to that can also be beautiful. Actually, that might be all I want to say today. There were a couple of other questions, but basically the rest of the questions were so deep that I want to make full videos about them. So we'll leave it here for now. But thank you so much. If you have more questions, please leave them in the comments. I do work very hard to answer the comments with as much detail as I can. And if you want more information, please jump on my newsletter. I've linked that below. I send it out every week with lots of like great exclusive tips. It's also where I publicize my new video every week. So if you want that information, you can get it there. Thank you so much, T, for being a part of this video.
Hey.
That is all for today. I've been Renee, and I hope this helps. Jump in. All set?
Yep.
I live on a very busy street. You're gonna hear the trucks. It's just how it is. It's also rush hour now, so. Okay. Are we limited on time?
We've got about 5 minutes left.
Of memory cards?
Of memory
Holy. Okay, then I'm skipping that. Next.